Culture.
I'm here with the family.
Bryce, XXV, Double I,
Rome.
D-Melo, Gruff Lion,
T-Buggy, man.
to the greatest sports show on the planet, La Familia. Hope y'all ready for a ride.
Can't wait to hear what you guys got to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Commanders Nation, we are back. We are back indeed. It is Hell to the Culture, and we have a special guest with us. So, as always, it is your boy, Young Rome 22, and my man, Bryce. But tonight, we got a special guest with us, and that is Mr. Lake Lewis Jr. He's here to talk all things Commanders with us. So, before we get into to the good topics that we got today with training camp, Terry McLaurin's contract, and all, I'm going to let Lake go ahead and introduce himself.
Oh, I appreciate you guys having me on. NFL insider and analyst, cover the league, cover the Commanders. I do a little bit of everything. Got a radio show on Radio One. Right for the NFL for heavy sports. So yeah, I just try to stay busy, man.
Yes, sir. Like, been following your work for quite some time, man. You do an excellent job.
Appreciate it.
Bryce, man, how have you been, bro? Go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, pretty good, man. Appreciate the introduction, Rome. And Lake, pleasure having you on tonight, man. Excited to get into some of these training camp topics. Also, pick your brain on some other things, some of the changes in the organization, and just how far they've come in such a short time. But yeah, as always, man, pleasure to be here. Excited to get into some of these topics tonight.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Very excited to have you on. Been looking forward to it. So let's get straight to it, man. Let's start with football though, before we get into any contract drama. Bryce and I are very, very astute. We pay a lot of attention to training camp, and we'd love to get your inside knowledge on what's been going on with the Commanders. Me personally, my first question for you is: how does Jaden Daniels look compared to how he looked this time last year as a rookie in training camp?
I mean, last year he was just. I think what wowed us was his athleticism. That he could just do so many things at that point in his career, being a rookie. He hadn't done anything yet, but you knew he was going to be special. Well, this year, you can see it's like another leap he's taken. Like, there's no doubt that this guy's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And you can see it every day. Today, ironically, he had a couple, or several actually missed throws on the deep ball. And you can just see it in him that he was fuming because he likes to be perfect. He likes to not make mistakes. But I can assure you, when we go back to practice on Thursday, those deep balls will be falling right where they need to be. I mean, that's just how he is. He processes things differently now. It's a lot faster. He's a lot bigger than he was last year. I mean, he literally looks like he's put on about 15 pounds of muscle. So, you can just tell. And I was talking with somebody that's in a circle the other day, and they were just telling me everything that I've seen with my own eyes. They were confirming it verbally, saying that, like, Jaden's the type of person, he doesn't even feel like he's a top 10 quarterback right now. That's how driven he is to just be the best. And, he doesn't want anything given to him. He wants to take everything. That's how he is. So Washington's got themselves one, man. They got themselves one of those rare athletes that, let's face it, everybody at this level is really good. You can't be a pro and exceptional. I tell people all the time, the guy you say is a bum will come into your rec league and do it. Then you have those guys who are amongst the pros that can do whatever they want to you. And Washington's got one in number 5.
Yeah, my bad, Ron, but they got a lot of talk going around of this supposed sophomore slump, and that's all we've heard. We've heard that all off season, especially from opposing fans. And me and Rome have been, heavy on the side of ain't no way there's a sophomore slump. It seems that you would agree.
He's definitely not having a sophomore slump. Matter of fact, I'm putting him in the MVP race, and I'll say home second year, Lamar Jackson second year, they got MVPs. So why can't we have Jaden in that conversation as opposed to some of these other guys? And the other thing, too, is that the organization is set up for him to be successful. He's got the right coaching. He's got the right coordinator and Cliff Kingsbury. They went out and got, a all-pro left tackle to help. They drafted a tackle in Josh Connerly. They went out with Debo Samuel. They got, they have speed now, 4-3, 2-4-3 guys in the backfield that I think are going to surprise a lot of people. So I just think they've surrounded him with everything possible for him to be even more successful than he was last year.
Yeah, most definitely. That and on the sophomore slump thing too as well. Like from being around them, do you feel like any of the because we only see what we see, but from being around there and feeling the atmosphere, is it all genuine? Is all the work ethic and all everything that we see? That's all. None of it is for show because he doesn't seem like the flashy type, so to speak.
Nah, it's all real. Like one of the things that I said last year, I noticed in rookie mini camp all the way last year. Every time he did something well, he never looked over at the media. And that's rare, man. Like some of these guys want to be seen. you know, There's been quite a few come through this town over the years that want to be seen.
Thanks.
He wasn't like that. And it was like you could see, like he's really not paying attention to us. But what he was doing was, when the veterans came in, and this is last year now I'm talking about. So when the vets came in for like mini camp, you saw him like after things he would do something, he would naturally start talking to Zach Ertz. He would talk to even at times Bobby Wagner on the defensive side would come over. And he was all ears. He wasn't even doing a lot of talking to them. He was listening. And that's how like somebody wants to be great. But then when he starts talking about his favorite player of all time was Kobe and, he's from out that way. I mean, you can't, as an athlete, you can't be a fan of Kobe and not have a work ethic. I mean,
Right.
you don't
I'm a big Kobe fan myself.
work ethic. You can't be a Kobe fan. And if Kobe were here, he probably would tell you can't be a fan of mine if you don't have a work ethic. So that's how he is, Bobby Wagner, player of all time, Kobe. So it's something, man. And the thing that you noticed this year with Jaden is he was already a leader. You can tell some people just have leadership qualities and some don't. He was already a leader, but you can tell now, like he's the guy. There's no questioning that. Like this team knows they're going to go as far as number 5 can take them. And last year he took them to the NFC Championship game. This year with more talent, they feel like 5's taking them to the Super Bowl.
And I think they got good reason to feel that way, especially with some of the additions. I'd like to get into some of those free agent acquisitions, trade acquisitions, and kind of what you think about some of these guys, namely Laramie Tunsil, Debo Samuel, and how they've looked so far in camp. I think this might have been Laramie's first day really participating in any sort of major way. But how has he looked? How has Debo Samuel looked? And what kind of impact do you think they'll have? And what kind of impact do you think they'll have to Jaden's game?
Man, they'll be stable, man. And the thing I say by stable is they're great football players. So you already know that. But the professionalism, like people don't realize this, but like it's like those guys that they went out and got, not just them two, but I mean like the Dedrick Wise of the world, Jonathan Jones, they're professionals. Like and they're also something that I noticed today, especially. They let a lot of the guys' families come on the field afterwards, and it was a lot of kids on that field after practice. I mean, toddlers. It struck me like it was the majority of them, like wives, not girlfriends, wives, and their kids. I'm like, you know what? Lance Newmark and Adam always tell me, nah, they don't have a type of player that they look for. They just want good football players. And I don't buy that. I mean, that's just that they have to say that. But a lot of guys talk about their faith, their family, and you can tell, like when you see that, we're talking about some young guys having kids and their wives out there. You can tell that the kind of guys that they want to bring into this culture are guys that know what responsibility is, if that makes sense,
Right.
Yeah.
And it showed in their play last year. Like they were never down. They were never out of it. Even when they had the, couple game losing streak, And people were wondering, is reality setting in? And Jaden kept saying, nah, we're going to be fine. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Rookie was saying that, and they were fine. Well, now you go out and you get a guy like Laramie Tunsil, who is a monster on the field, to protect Jaden. It's going to make Jaden better. It's going to make Laramie better to have that kind of quarterback. No offense to like C.J. Stroud, who's really good. Jaden's he's different. I mean, it's crazy to say that, but I tell people when I talk about Jaden, this is my 20th year covering the NFL, and I've seen a lot of quarterbacks. I have never seen a quarterback that's equally elite in passing as he is to running. Normally one guy's better at one than the other. But this guy's like 50-50 right down the middle. Okay, you take my legs away, I'm gonna beat you with my arm. You try to take the pass away from me, I'm running by you. And it's equally effective. And so for him to have these weapons like Debo's having one of the top 3 or 4 camps, period. He's making dumb plays every day. And I don't mean dumb, you guys know what I mean by that. Like great plays every day. He's pulling a play, a bag or something on someone. And it's just like, damn, you keep thinking, and imagine when Terry gets out here, how this going to look for Dave. It's going to be unguardable, if you can say that.
Yeah, now I wasn't too big a fan of the Debo trade at first, man, but everything that I'm hearing in camp is looking great.
But I was going to ask you, why not?
Well, I mean, I guess I let too many 49ers fans get into my ear. They were a little bitter about him leaving, but everything is looking grade A so far. Another player that I wanted to get into real quick that we actually traded for him last year was Marshawn Lattimore. And, I believe he said he's been healthy since mini camp or whatever that was. And I just want to get your opinion on how he's looked so far and if he's getting closer to that dominant form.
It's interesting you say that because I kind of spotlighted him today in one of my stand-ups that he looks good. Like there is no signs of any, hamstring or any leg injury, period. I mean, he's breaking, cutting, doing everything out there. And he also looks like he lost about 10 pounds, maybe even 15. He looks very thin, not like, normal person thin. I just mean from a football standpoint, he doesn't look as thick as he's always looked over the years. He actually looks very thin. And so you can tell that, he's got a lot to prove. He's got a chip on his shoulder because he is one of the best corners in football. And last year, the circumstances of how he was traded here during the middle of the season, you have to learn your teammates, let alone their names outside of what they do on the and you're thrown into the fire in the middle of a race to get into the playoffs at that time. And then you're playing against, the CeeDee Lambs of the world and the A. Browns and Devonta Smiths and Malik Neighbors. I mean, that's a gauntlet when you're on, so I think, everybody's excited for Mikey because Mikey's having a great camp, and then Troy Amos is having an incredible camp. But I think Marshawn is like, okay, don't forget about me. I'm the Pro Bowler, and I think he's bounce back season.
Yeah, I'm on record saying if Marshawn can get back to that like top 10 corner form, then I think the Commanders are having a top 10 defense this year. I think defense is one of those things that you see the most variance from year to year in the NFL. Team can go from being in the 20s and next season they're top 10, and they might only hold that top 10 for 1 year and then be back in the 20s. But it seems that defense can really change year to year. Wouldn't shock me if we see a big turnaround this year on the defensive end, especially with the amount of defensive minded coaches, including the head coach. Obviously, right? And, I think Dan Quinn is primed for a Dan Quinn defense here soon. What do you think about the defense overall, like how they'll kind of finish the season, start the season and finish the season?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a big Joe Witt Jr. guy. I think he did a really good job of what he had last year. and that really wasn't their full defense. I mean, let's face it. No, not to call people out because, like I said, they're pros, but they went into last year before moves were made and all that stuff with Benji St. Juice and Emmanuel Forbes as their corners. I mean, you guys already know work, and they had to ride that out. And thank God for Mikey Samerstill, having that rookie campaign that he did, and Noah, had a nice campaign as well. So, you think about that, but they're like looking at the teams that are going up against, and they're like, we need in this defense, the Dan Quinn defense, the Joe Witt Jr. defense, you need aggressive corners. Like you need corners that can play man to man. And Trey Amos is starting right now. On one side, Marshawn on the other. Mikey is in the slot, but Mikey's moving all over the field. And people don't remember when Mikey was in Michigan, he was blitzing folks off the corner, so and locking people up in the middle of the field. That's what he's doing right now. He's making more plays right now, and I think maybe for Mikey to think maybe he should have been on the outside at some point. He's loving life. Now he's able to move around and make plays, and he's doing that. So, yeah, I think that you're going to see a much improved defense. And everyone keeps saying they still don't have a pass rusher. The pass rush wasn't what killed them last year. It was they couldn't stop the run. So what did they do? They go out and get these monsters. Javon Kinlaw is a mountain of a dude, man. That's a big boy. Eddie Goldman, big dude. Dedrick Wise, big guy. These are guys that maybe they're not going to get you 10, 15 sacks, but what they're going to do is they're going to establish an edge where you can't run to the edge on Washington anymore, and you're going to be able to let everybody else make plays underneath. So like Johnny Newton, Deron Payne, these are the guys that you're going to see exploding through the middle of lines, and I think it's going to work. I think, yeah, I agree with you, Bryce. I think this defense last year at the end of the year was ranked 15th overall.
Yeah.
They're definitely primed to move into the top 10 this year for sure.
Yeah, I can see that playing out, especially like you said, the change of corner is going to be major. But when you start to think about, we got to think about the other side too. I think we could point to some holes in the defense, and I think the pass rush is one of the things that a lot of fans have been worried about, kind of coming into this season. And who do you think ends up emerging out of that pass rush group, right? Because obviously, we got Von Miller now. We're expecting him to kind of be more of a closer, if you will, right? We're expecting limited snap count. No one's expecting 100% of the players from Von Miller this season. Which one of these guys, like that, maybe it's a John Baptiste, or like which one of these guys off the end do you think could emerge this season and maybe shock some people?
I think it's Dorrance Armstrong. I do. Okay. Last year, but he was always around the ball. He was really disruptive, and he was. I think for my money, Dorrance probably was their best lineman last year. Some people say we only have 5 sacks, but he was also a guy that was like I said, he was disruptive. He had a fair share of tackles, and I think with Von Miller now being on the roster, it's a lot different now. So for instance, when you think of Dante Fowler, he had double-digit sacks, but right. His strength wasn't against the run, and teams knew that. They ran right at him. Well, with Von, although he's 36, I'm telling you guys, the bend that you see with him in practice around the edge, I've never seen that in my life, period. And he's doing it at 36. He almost looks like his shoulders touching the ground when he comes around. It's amazing. So just the fact that it's Von Miller, offensive coordinators are going to look for where he is just out of respect, sheer respect. And that's going to open it up a lot for a lot of guys now. They didn't have that player last year on the D-line that had that name recognition that, people say, well, John Allen and Deron were Pro Bowlers 1 or 2 times. I mean, that's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not like in Aaron Donald category, but Von Miller is. So I think him just lining up wherever they put him, the offense is going to have to watch where he is. And now whoever is on the other side or whoever's behind him. I mean, you could have Tom's Frankie Louisville lining up right behind Vaughn. They're gonna mix it up, man. And now you have different angles. You could have Frankie lining up behind Vaughn, and you could have Mikey in the slot blitzing. Like, I mean, I can.
Hey, nah, like,
Yeah,
it can get scary.
Yeah.
the point is they're going to be coming at you from different ways to generate a pass rush, and you got big corners now that can lock up receivers, can jam them at the line of scrimmage to disrupt stuff. So it's just not going to be like, remember years past, offenses were dictating everything against the defense. It's not going to be like that. And I think Joe Witt finally has what he said when he got here. He wants guys that get to the ball in a violent manner. They're going to have that this year. Fine.
Yeah, well, Joe Witt certainly has the pieces in place for the defense to take a big leap. But before we let you get out of here, man, we got to get into it. We got to get into the Terry McLaurin drama from the Eastern Motors commercial interview. I'm not quite sure exactly what went on there. To his agent being at training camp. As you said before we got started, man, it feels like the organization has done everything right by the fans and by the players up to this point. Should we have any reason to believe that they're doing wrong by Terry right now?
Not at all. I just don't buy it. And I feel like, over the last 2 days since I've spoken out so much on it, people feel like I'm anti-Terry. Terry's my dude, man. Like, I want him to get all the money he possibly can get. But again, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to keep saying it. Where are you going to go if you're Terry? That's a better situation than this. You got number 5 ascending. As long as he stays healthy every year, this team can be a Super Bowl contender because you got a legit quarterback. And you saw what Terry did with that quarterback last year. First time Terry was in the end zone like that. You know what I mean? 13 times. He's got Deebo Samuel opposite him now. They have Jalen Lane, a speedster, underneath now. I'm like, if you're Terry, I understand you want to get your money. And I'm never going to try to play with a man's money, period. But sometimes you have to ask yourself how much is enough, for you to feel you're being respected. You have to understand, and I just want fans to understand this. It's not about what they feel like Terry's value is that they're trying to diminish or anything like that. It's that if they give him this contract extension, which they will, that contract extension doesn't kick in for 2 more years. In 2 more years, on September 15th, which is his birthday, in 2 more years, he's going to be going on 32 years old when that contract kicks in. Well, guess what else happens in 2 years? Same time frame. Jaden Daniels will be up for his extension. And he's going to have an NFL record contract. So Adam Peters is conscious of those things. So it's not that they don't want to pay Terry, but and I keep saying this to folks. We all know what Terry is to the organization. We all know what he's meant. When you talk about culture and what you want a commander to be, Terry McLaurin is the definition of what you want. Nobody's ever denying that or taking that away from Terry. It's just that there's a bigger fish that's going to have to be fried in 2 years. And I don't think anybody and their mother that roots for this team wants them to mess around with Jaden.
Can't do that.
So that's what this stuff is. And in fairness, to Terry, he does have the numbers that, trump some of these guys getting these big contracts. But the difference is these guys are a lot younger. And I know fans don't like hearing it because they're like, his numbers keep going up. And yes, they do. They absolutely do. But that's just the nature of sports. If you can get a younger dude to make that kind of money, you have them for years to come. Terry's trying to be smart here and get the bag, you know, because this might be the last time he could have a big contract. But the irony is, and I keep saying this to people too, they don't discredit Bobby Wagner. They just went out and got Von Miller. They got Zach Ertz. These guys
Yeah,
are plus. So Adam Peters doesn't see age like, okay, these guys can't be productive. They're doing 1-year deals with these older guys, and these older guys want those 1-year deals because you know they know that they're secure for that year, and if they want to come back the following year, they can keep doing that. But the other thing I keep telling people too is, you know, around league executives, you know, the ESPN top 10 and all that stuff. Terry was 10 on the league executives list for wide receivers. Do you not think that that's something that they think about in the building in Washington when it comes to the contract negotiations? If he wants top 5 money, that's just not going to happen, man. And it's not to say that they don't think he's a top 5 caliber receiver, but to pay that kind of money, that'll play with your salary cap. Even though you have the money, it'll play with your salary cap because next year, guys, think about it. You got to still look out for Debo. You got to look out for Laramie Tunsil. Frankie Louvu is going to be coming up. I mean, you got some pieces now. So it's different from years past where there was 3 or 4 Redskins that, you know, you always had to take care of and keep them in house. Nah, man, they got a roster now. They have you're not going to be a Super Bowl caliber team with 2-3 players. They have a roster now that they're going to have to take care of. And I think that that's why this thing hasn't been done yet. Not out of disrespect, but just trying to see how the numbers work, not just for Terry and now, but how do they work a year, 2, 3 years from now? That's
do you
what
think it? Go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say, yeah, it sounds like from some of the things I'm reading between the lines, it sounds like you think it will get done though. And if you do think it will get done, like how soon? When would you
Yeah.
start?
I think it's done before we go to New England. You know, I truly believe we go to New England on what is that, the 6th? So, you know, you're looking at over a week. I think this thing will be done. You know, I did like today. Terry came out, you know, signed autographs again, and I do want people to know this because I know this stuff. I know these things. Terry's perfectly fine with his guys in the locker room. You know, so they still cool. Everything's fine. Guys know it's business. All I ever said that I did not like, and I'm sticking to it, I did not like the optics of you talking with your agent for 20 minutes off to the side.
Okay, so I'm not bugging for thinking the same thing then, because I for me, and I don't want to overblow it, but it felt a little TO-esque, or like, you know how most wide receivers are divas, and Terry's been the furthest thing from that, but that felt very, very, you know, sit-ups in the driveway.
All I'm saying, man, that's all I was saying was Terry. That's not you. And I understand, I respect you. You know, he's one of the nicest people you ever meet, period. But when you're doing that and he's listening to his agent, that, you know, that's his prerogative. But all I kept saying was, man, that's not a good look. It's just not, because it just looks like your agent is out there in your ear, man. You know what I mean? And what can you be talking about on that field for 20 minutes that y'all can't talk about on the phone, man, or at their house? So guess what? Today he came out, he didn't have his agent around him. And that's all I was saying. Like, okay, you know, that's all I was saying. Tell him to stay home, man. Stay your tail at home. Get my deal done.
Now that was what I was thinking when I saw the picture. I was like, your agent should be talking to Adam Peters, because isn't he like right down to 10, 20 yards over?
Right on the side. And I'm like, so I'm gonna be honest. Maybe I was being a little selfish in this too. I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of not wanting to have to cover drama anymore. You know, I'm so over that stuff, man. And this new organization, they've never created it. So now you got fans getting mad with Adam and saying, "Oh man, y'all disrespecting Terry. If you cared about him, this deal would be done." No, man, that's not how this works. This is how many fans over the years did we hear really begging for a competent front office? You know, a real GM. You got one now. You got a
Yeah,
good young one who understands analytics, understands the cap, understands what they're doing, and they have a plan in place. Terry is a huge part of their plan. And I've said it, no Terry, no Super Bowl. They know that too. But bottom line is, I don't think Terry's going to get that high end dollar that he's been looking for. And I know some fans are, disappointed in saying that he's deserving of it. This sports, man. You don't get paid for lifetime achievement awards. You just don't. You get a lot of these guys are getting these big bags for what they're expected to do in 2 years, in 3 years. Terry's trying to get paid for what he's done.
yeah,
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
yeah. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's different. Everyone's saying, well, look at Garrett Wilson. He got broke off. Terry's better than Garrett. Garrett's 24 years old. When that contract he just signed extension kicks in, he'll be 26, not 32. That's a big difference, man.
And that is, especially in football years.
Football years. And in fairness to Terry, I know he didn't play a lot at Ohio State. He was like the fourth receiver there. And, so I totally understand that. He didn't get a lot of balls thrown his way in DC, because the quarterback play was terrible. I truly understand all of that. And I think Terry is, this is just me speaking, this isn't anybody else, but I said this. If they came to him and said 3 years, 90 million, 70 of it guaranteed, you got to take that. You have to take that. I think the number that I think would absolutely get this thing done, and Washington would feel good about where they are financially with it, would be like 29. But I know DK makes 32.5.
Yeah.
Oh, and Terry and him were in the same draft class, but DK is almost 3 years younger.
Okay. Yeah.
The little things that you have to weigh in all of this.
If I'm Terry, though, doesn't that so Terry's got to be in the 30s, though? You would think, right? Like,
see, I said this a couple weeks ago. I reported that they looking for 32 to 34 in that range. And 36 would make him the second highest paid receiver in the league.
That's more than CD. So I don't know. That's a tough sell.
Body except for Jamar and Justin. And I'm just asking y'all, is Terry in that category? There's no receiver in the NFL in those two guys' category. I'm sorry. I love them. Not even CD's in that category. Those two guys are on another planet, okay? And then you have the next tier. The question is Terry in that next tier? Is Terry in that in that 3 through 6 to 7 range? And if you have to think about it, that's where negotiations think, how they think. If you have to think that, like, is he? If I were to say who the two best receivers in the league, you're instantly saying who they are. But if I say who is the next tier of 3 or 4 receivers, right. Steve Lamb, well, pay-wise, DK Metcalf is in there, and he's not one of those type of receivers. That's what Terry's folks. I'm telling you, they look at that, and it makes
that skews it, right? Because then it's like, what is the contract paying for, right? Am I paying for one of the best receivers, or am I paying a market value for what a receiver that checks this box, and this box? This is what they get. Are we at the point where a receiver that checks the boxes that Terry's checked gets 32 plus? And I can see why Terry would feel that way personally, right? If I'm Terry, I feel like I'm, top 10.
Okay, yeah, but top 10 doesn't get you 32 to 34. It won't get you there. It might be able to have a conversation 29, 30. But if they want more than that, that's tough, man. Like Cortland Sutton yesterday. Yeah,
I
no,
wanted to ask you if that hurt Terry's chances because it
oh,
looks like it did.
I know Terry was like, oh, dang. I mean, same age, basically. Look at the numbers. Look at the fact they haven't had the best quarterback play. And last year, with rookie quarterbacks that were really good, Terry, they literally had almost identical numbers, except Terry had 4 more touchdowns. Okay.
Yeah,
And he got 4 more touchdowns because his quarterback's better than Bo Nix. Simple as that. Okay. So 23 million, though. That's what Cortland's getting. That's a big difference from 23 million to 33 million. So naturally, some of my colleagues we talking, they're like, well, he's got to be around 27, 28. I personally, me myself, think that if he can squeeze 30, stop worrying about 31, 32, 33, 34. And I know people, some guy came to me today, man, stop talking about that, man. There's a big difference between $2 or $3 million. Not necessarily, because this is the difference. Would you want 30 million? That's you're only getting 15 technically. That's what you get paid per year. That's doubling that money. And you're playing for a contender. Like, how much more money do you need, man? Like, you're doubling your salary. You're playing with an ascending team. You're playing with the hottest quarterback in the league, young quarterback. And it could be like this for a while. Or do you want to get paid and lose? That's what you have to ask them guys. So I'm sorry, man. If somebody tell me that I can live in I can live and I'm just coming up with some area. My sister living up in Marlboro, okay. But somebody tell me I can live in Rockville and make 5 million, or I can live in Potomac and make 3 million. Come on, man. I mean, like, really, like, it's all relative at the end of the day. And I just think for Terry, um, there's gonna have to be he's gonna have to give a hometown discount. He's gonna have to. And I don't think a hometown discount of 5 to 6 million. No, that's not fair to him. But if it's $2 million, man, where are you gonna get a better setup than this? You're just not. So that's been my spill, man. I'm not trying to mess with that man's money or anything like that. I think today, he did the right thing by coming out there by himself, man. You don't need your agent right now for that. To take pictures with fans. The fans love this dude. And Terry might be one of the most top 10 beloved, you know, players of all time. I mean, he's that beloved. And some fans were like, man, why is he doing that? And then when he had made the comment about my beef isn't with you, he said that to the fans. I was like, come on, bro, don't do this, man. Don't pit anybody against each other. You may not,
yeah,
and you might even feel disrespected, but you can't. This setup now isn't set up to be disrespectful. If you know what I'm saying, it's business right now. And if you look at Adam Peters, where he came from in San Francisco, even before that in Denver and New England, they're tough negotiators. The setups that they have, and a lot of the contracts that they do get, they come deep into preseason. And then those players are out there. Brandon Ayuk, all you gotta do is look right there in San Fran. He signed like in like the 26th of August or something. That's just the
yeah,
way they do stuff, because he's still looking at other players that could be cut from other teams that you can bring on this roster to help. So it's a lot of things, as opposed to just saying focus on Terry's contract. Even though Terry is one of your top 2 or 3 players, we know that, but you still have business to do that takes care of the full team. Terry's deal is going to get done. Everything's going to be worked out. Everybody's going to be happy, and they're going to go in the Super Bowl. Terry signs.
nah, man. I think you definitely you talked me down because I was thinking there was no way Terry should accept anything lower than DK, man. But after hearing you break it all down, I think they're gonna have to settle at that 30 million range. Especially after what Cortland just signed for. I personally thought Cortland Cortland took a little bit too much of a hometown discount,
I
but
mean,
that's just my opinion.
damn, Cortland. But you know what? To some people, man, that's security. That's financial security. And
Yeah, I can't say I would turn the contract now.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like you have to ask yourself how much is enough. And if it's about being respected, there's many ways that Terry is respected in that building. Those players love that guy, man. And I talked to some guys and they were like, look, that's the business side. I can't comment. And I'm like, yeah, we good. I totally get it. They were like, but nah, that's our guy, man. And a couple of them have said, he's in there with us. He's in meetings. He's doing everything with them behind closed doors. But the optics of him in public was like, he looked disgruntled, and that's not Terry. Terry is always smiling. And I understand he's got to be serious right now for this contract. Totally get it. But again, I'll say it for the final time and I'll leave it alone. I just felt like you didn't have to have your agent with you everywhere. that was it, man.
Yeah, I think that definitely rose a couple more questions than it needed to, for sure. I've heard you, and we got to get out of here in a second, but I got one more question because I've heard you put this in a couple sentences tonight. Super Bowl and Commanders in the same sentence. Do you think this team ceiling this season is Super Bowl champ?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I've already said it. I predict things early, and just from what I see and stuff. And last year, I predicted at this time that they were capable of winning 11 games, and people thought I was absolutely nuts. And I'm like, no, because I know what I see in that quarterback. And when you have one of those, everything changes. Everything. You have instant hope. Well, this year, because of the talent that they have out there and the way they're getting after it, and the fact that their best offensive weapon isn't even on the field right now with Terry, we're talking about when he comes into the fray. I've already said it. I think the Super Bowl this year is Washington versus Baltimore. I think that game, when we were in Baltimore last year, the buzz in that building that day was epic. It was as crazy as this may sound, because some Eagles fans are going to think I'm really silly saying this. The buzz in that Baltimore stadium that day was it almost felt more electric than the Link did in the NFC Championship game. I mean, because the two teams were so close. A lot of people, former Redskins fans have moved up to Baltimore. That became their team. So it was like Washington went into that Baltimore game 4-1. And I kept hearing from colleagues and other people, they're not that good, man. Like, Baltimore going to smack them around and prove that all this is a fluke. Although Washington lost that game, that was the first time I saw Jaden really, really upset about losing. And that was the first time that I saw this team, guys saying to us, like, we should have won that game. Like, we should have won that game. Like, they felt like not only did they prove that they can play with a heavyweight, but they probably should have beat that heavyweight. And I know Lamar walked off that field, and in one of the press conferences, a Baltimore media person was trying to disrespect Jaden and asked Lamar about what was it like, going up against this guy and all this hype and you beat them, and it just, basically trying to shoot down Jaden. And Lamar was like, hype? He said, nah. He said, He said, that dude over there is real. He said, matter of fact, I talked to him about coming up off that jersey, and I'm like, see, it was respect. And that's when I knew, like, this thing is sustainable. And you knew the way they lost in that game against Philadelphia. Philadelphia was the better team. Make no mistake about it. They had more playmakers, but Washington still at times was in that game, even though they didn't have the playmakers. And you just said, if they had a couple more playmakers, if they had a couple more weapons, they could close this gap considerably. Well, I think they've closed the gap. I'm not saying they're better than Philadelphia. You got to still beat the champs. But I think, my grade on Philadelphia last year was a 96. Washington was a 79. Okay. That's a big difference for a team to get to the NFC Championship. Yeah. My Washington right now is an 89, and my grade for Philadelphia is a 92. So Let the
Okay. Okay. All
and
right.
when back, it might bump it up to a 90.
Well, I also picked the Commanders Ravens Super Bowl going into this, man, and not just because I'm a homer here in the area, man, but like I'm agreeing with you on a lot of these points, man. I'm seeing what you're seeing, and I think this is the best chance that the Commanders have had in my entire lifetime to go get a Super Bowl. So I'm
You
excited, man.
young, man, so you guys didn't probably see the good old days.
Yeah,
I
I think I
remember,
was like one or two the last Super Bowl.
man. No, I was in college when they won their last Super Bowl. So yeah, trust me, I remember them vividly. And for me, man, like I don't have a problem telling people I'm 54, man. I remember this stuff. B mentioned me. That's my dude. We talk about this stuff all the time. He was playing. Then. But we talk about just what this town is going to be like. You saw how it got last year, the frenzy, how it got. Imagine having it like that every game, every year. That's how it used to be. It used to be like how you saw that NFC Championship build up. It used to be like that every week for years in DC. And it's about to be back there because you guys have something that I never had growing up with this franchise, and that's a franchise quarterback. They've had good quarterbacks. Joe, he was an MVP one year. Um, but as far as a franchise quarterback, somebody you draft, groom, plays his career there, wins at a high level, and is one of the best in the league, best players, not quarterback, best players. This is the first time they've ever had that. And now it's something, man. It's something like I was in Mexico, not to get long-winded here, but I was in Mexico. My better half of me went on vacation, and one of the guys I don't know, I think I had on I had a lanyard or something we had to do to go on where we were going. So I put my commander's lanyard on it. And the dude was like, Commanders. And I was like, yeah. And he said, Jaden Daniels. He said, I'm a big NFL fan, and he spoke good English, but he was Mexican. He said, I'm a big NFL fan. Commanders my favorite team. I love Jaden Daniels. That's all you need to know.
Go.
Yeah. No,
It's
so
universal now.
our show is named Hell to the Culture. And final question, and we'll get out of here. Would you say the culture is back or coming back?
It's back. It's hard. It's back. It's back tenfold. Like these guys, man, these guys are banging in practice. Like it's competition. It's real. It's not like, and it's not top heavy. It's not like they got a couple guys and then it falls off. You're gonna hear some young guys cracking the lineup this year. I mean, Tyler Owens, don't sleep.
That's a guy we've been talking about. Yeah.
And there's young guys that are there. When they drafted their draft class this year, when we spoke to them via Zoom, right? I mean, immediately after after Adam spoke to them, they passed them on to us in the media room. There's like 10 of us in there, maybe not even 10 of us, but we were on Zoom with these guys, and they all were like, they can't wait to get in to go to work. They can't wait to get in to compete, and that's the word they kept using. So they're looking for alphas out there, man. All their players are like guys that feel like they can be the guy, and that's what makes this team so special.
No, most definitely, man. Like you said, when you got it from top to bottom, that really does put you in Super Bowl contention. So it was great having you on. As always, hope to have you on again. Where you want to shout out your Twitter, your radio station before we get out of here one more time?
Sure, yeah. You can follow me on social media at Lake Lewis Jr. It's on all platforms. You can check out my show, the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. It's you can subscribe to it on all podcast carriers. You can listen to it on Radio One WOL in DC on Tuesdays. You can watch it on YouTube on Lake Lewis Jr. channel, and we do have our fan show on Friday. I'm inviting you guys to join us as well. But we have people from all over the world, Commanders fans. We have somebody joins us weekly from Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey. We have some gentlemen joining us from Ghana. I mean, it's a real thing, something I wanted to do in the off season, but I decided to make this a a weekly occurrence, and we're going to continue it through the season. So it gives fans an opportunity to come on and talk. And now I'm finding out that these fans are exchanging phone numbers and they're becoming friends off the air, so to speak. So yeah, have a good time with that, and also write Commanders content for Heavy Sports, a subsidiary of the league. So yeah, man, it's a lot going on. So I try to stay busy.
Nah, that's awesome. That's great news, man. And we would love to be on there. So we'll definitely be in touch. And excited for this season. We'll definitely be in touch and following your work.
Right, I appreciate you guys having me on. Anytime you want me on, just let me know.
Sound good. We definitely gonna hold you to that, man. Well, hey, Rome, you know how we end each and every show, brother. Hell to the
Hell to the
culture.
culture.